Well, hello. Welcome back to the Marketing for What Matters podcast. I'm GM at Peaceful Media, and I am buttressed by two phenomenal human beings, Karli Petrovic here at Peaceful Media, the writer of stuff, and my new dear friend from Explore Washington Park, Meghan McCloskey, who is featured in episode number 20 of the Marketing for What Matters podcast. It is a doozy of an episode that that goes through a scavenger hunt all throughout half of half of Washington Park. We didn't even get to the entirety of the 410 plus acres of amazingness that Portland has to offer. But we set the table for another episode that we'll follow up with. But today's double click segment branches off from that main interview we did, where we discovered one of the main challenges that Meghan and her team faces at Washington Park or Explore Washington Park. As a nonprofit, how do you get this message out to folks to not only explore Washington Park, which is amazing and sort of sells itself, but arrive to Washington Park in using and leaning into all the public transit options that literally drop you off at the doorstep of some of Portland's finest attractions, such as the Oregon Zoo, the World Forestry Center, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial there. And so, how do we make people aware of this? And this is where we, as marketers here at Peaceful Media, get a chance to kind of lick our lips, I suppose, but in a very peaceful and savory way, not in a gross or unsavory way. And we get an opportunity to do what we do, which is, in Karli's writer of stuff world, come up with the sentences that are going to be shown in commercials or social media or even as banners across I-84 or banners at the Portland Airport, PDX. How do we get people's attention and demonstrate and communicate those benefits, those time savings, cost savings, stress savings of using public transit to arrive at Washington Park in a salient way, right? Often don't have time to communicate paragraphs of messaging. So it's a beautiful art form and a science that Karli and Meghan both possess, which is how do you get that message across succinctly in a way that is in the best interest and really pokes the bear in a gentle, loving way and reminds them, hey, it's in your best interest and in our planet's best interest if we use what's readily available for us right as we walk off the plane, which is the Red Line Max, the light rail that drops you off right there at Washington Park. So if you'll remember from the episode, if you haven't watched the episode, please click, somewhere over there, I think, and jump on into it so you understand the context for this. And in this double click segment, we're going to explore two things that we wanted to deliver to Explore Washington Park and Meghan and the team, which is one, a messaging brief. So Karli, went through the episode, listened to all of the things that we were chatting about, and also just touched in or tapped into her own creative genius and said, here's what I would say, in these different contexts, different lengths. So we'll go through that here on this episode. And then secondly, we also produced short form video clips or commercials that help tell this story and lay out the messaging in a more visually interesting way, right? What would you put into a retargeting campaign, or what would you just put at the top of the quote unquote awareness funnel for Explore Washington Park to notify them and remind them that public transit is the way to go if you're trying to get to any of Washington Park's attractions. So those are the two things we're going to go through here in the double click segment. Please, again, watch the full episode so that you have the full understanding and context of what we're trying to accomplish there. And then I guess the third thing, Meghan, that we set up before we even started recording, which was to help you guys start utilizing the Google grants free advertising money for nonprofits. If audience member, if you're wondering, wait, nonprofits get some Google grants for paid traffic, like free paid traffic? Yes, it's up to $10,000 a month, and it's readily available for you. You just need to sign up and activate your nonprofit account, get the grant. And we did a whole episode with one of Washington Park's attractions there, the World Forestry Center. So you can check out how we set that campaign up for the team over there. So that'll be in this segment right here. Go check that out. And so without further ado, let's dive into those two things we just talked about. We'll start with the messaging brief. But Karli, while I'm bringing this up, do you want to just share some of your process as the writer of stuff out here at Playful Media?
Yeah, sure. So, Megan, going into this, I really resonated with what I got to watch of this podcast episode because when I lived in Portland, which is, oh my gosh, maybe 5 years ago now, I used public transit for everything. Public transit, or I walked. Like I would walk across Portland to avoid having to drive. So this, of course, was very close to my heart because, people who drive in Portland know the roads are very small, traffic can be tight. A lot of times, no one's going anywhere fast, which can be frustrating if you are trying to go somewhere in a timely manner. So I wanted to bring all of that energy to the messaging brief, like the idea that um, public transit is not only like a good, solid option, but it really is your best option. It's kind of a part of that full experience. And that's something you and Jam talk about at length on this podcast, that it is a part of the cultural experience to get here and have it be kind of easy. So that was on my mind going into this. And the other part of it is that, a word that we don't often associate with public transportation is fun, right? But it can be when it makes the experience of getting to the place where you know you're going to have fun a lot less stressful. And Washington Park is a park. It's supposed to be fun. You have so many things that are a part of it, this community of destinations, all of which kind of bring some fun. So I wanted that messaging to be fun too. Can we use some play on words? Can we kind of dive into it? And one of the things that was so great about the conversation the both of you had during this podcast is you're talking about, like all you want to do is see a baby elephant. And there are so many barriers to the baby elephant. Yeah. And I thought that messaging was perfect because anyone with kids knows you better get to that baby elephant fast. So like, let's integrate some of those things. And that's kind of where I took this messaging brief. So, you both provided so much fodder for me to go in. And then I also looked at the website, right? Like, what are we talking about now? How can we integrate things that are already being shared on the website and make the messaging cohesive, even as we kind of amp up the fun, amp up the playfulness of talking about this process? Okay. So that's kind of like great. The overarching thing.
Okay, and I should have the messaging brief pulled up here. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Megan, maybe you could talk over or voice over, what your impressions were, what works for you, what could be continually massaged, and where do you plan to use this? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think what struck me first of all was just I love that we started sort of from high level. You have some shorter, snappier sort of headlines and subheads, I believe, and then you go deeper into like the longer form storytelling around transit. I thought that was really, really useful. We just in the past 6 months or so, we've created this really lengthy and detailed brand book, which I did share with you. And something that's missing is this messaging around public transit. There's a lot of messaging around the park as a whole and the community of destinations, like you mentioned, Karli. But we're missing sort of that second piece. It's like how to get there. What's the best way to get there? Once you know about the park, what's the best way to get there? So, I honestly, we will use this language. I hope everywhere. I mean, from social media to our website to our in-person communication. I mean, to the field staff that's out in the field talking with the visitors, about how they got to the park and how they might come next time. So, yeah, I really think it will be very useful for our team. It'll be in the brand book for sure, and then from there, I mean, I think that the sky's the limit on what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Yeah, Karli, you really captured a lot of those amazing sound bites. I was stunned when we got to that part in the episode where Megan, you identified how much it costs to park there at the Oregon Zoo.
Hmm.
And to
Yeah.
think that you could save almost, 75%
Hmm.
of your parking fee, not to mention that stress and chaos and time it takes oftentimes to sit in traffic to get there. So I'm really glad that
Hmm.
you're highlighting that. You know, for better or worse, most people do look at it from the lens of money. Can you save me money? Can you make me money? A lot of decisions are made from that lens. And so, don't bury it. And I think that's my tip for anybody who's listening to this, who's thinking about their messaging. Don't be shy about it. If you have a way to save people money or make people money, just put it out
Hmm.
there.
Hmm. Well, I was just going to say, that's not something that we have been tapping into really at all. It's really been about, I mean, we really try to focus on equity, sort of the equity of public transit. Not everyone has a car, but so it's an equitable option, I suppose. But I mean, I guess the cost of it all is tied in with that. So just being clearer on, um, public transit costs this much, parking costs this much. When you take into consideration the fact that kids ride free, under 7, yeah, you really could save some money. And then it costs a lot to go to the zoo already, with the family. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I was just chatting with somebody who's been living here for 4 years or so and travels a bunch, goes through PDX quite a bit for her work. And I was describing this episode and how convenient Max is from the PDX and
Mhm.
hop off your plane, walk out the door, where you normally hail an Uber or Lyft. Instead, walk to the right, and suddenly you're at the Red Line Max, which drops you off right at the doorstep of the zoo. She's like, "What? I didn't even know there
I
was
know.
a. I didn't even know there was a Max there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
whoa, we have a
Yeah.
communications problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's one thing for someone who's traveling from another state or another region. They may just not understand Portland's public transit situation and tooling,
Hmm.
right? So that's one thing. But when you live here, to not know that the red line is connected not only to Washington Park but also to the airport, like we just overall, I think what this might be suggesting is that we need to do an episode with Portland's Portland's transit authority and have a conversation about how we get that messaging out to the masses in a more ubiquitous and perhaps more salient way as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I think I told you about the Washington Park Airport store that is opening at PDX the end of, well, it'll be early 2026, but there will be opportunities for some big screen video marketing. We'll have some images of the Max there, and that'll be in the international terminal. So hopefully more
Right.
folks will make that connection that they can get to Washington Park on the Max from the airport.
It's great to hear. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to hop over to the commercials. Anything else, Karli, before we do that? Do you want to chime in on else?
Just the last thing I wanted to
Yeah.
say, which is another really powerful point, I think, is that if there's so much crowding that you can't find a parking spot, you end up in the same place where you're going to have to take public transit anyway. And I like nothing speaks more to I might as well take public transit than I'm risking taking public transit anyway. So there's a way to play with that, but I like that was one of the powerful things for me too. It's like you end up at Sunset Transit Center if you can't get into the parking lot. So maybe just start there, But
Yeah.
that costs everything. But yeah, I think you guys touched on the major points. So all that made it into the brief as well. And we'll see it in the commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So we have a whole folder. We'll share this whole thing with you. Megan, I think we already might have, right?
Yes, yes, you have. Mm-hmm.
So our team, Scotty, our video editor and post-production lead, and Caitlin Kiesler, our social media director, and Karli all put their heads and hearts together on this. And so there's both the landscape and also the verticals, which are going to be more applicable to your social media platforms. And I highly recommend, before we get into these, just really thinking about how we could be on YouTube. YouTube Shorts are a great way for you guys to educate people and be where people are searching for insights and knowledge. So if they're already exploring Washington Park, no pun intended, like let's be there with a short that explains how to get there, right? And the power of all of this, we chatted about this briefly with the executive director. The power of all of this is that with intent-based marketing and advertising, you guys can be putting these short form clips that help you accomplish your goals. Like you have a whole KPI around the percentage of park visitors who are using public transit, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's like almost the raison d'etre of the institution. It's like
Mm-hmm.
not only getting people here, but getting how
Mm-hmm.
people are getting here, right? So
Mm-hmm.
So if we have tiny advertising budgets, which I know is currently the case, how do we use that very effectively? And this is where these video assets can be used really strategically when someone has already expressed interest in coming to the park. So for anybody who is out there, this this may sound like a bunch of jargon, and I want to try to avoid that and try to make this as accessible as possible. Intent-based marketing means that if someone comes to your website, they have an intent to better understand something about your brand, something about your institution. If they are on Explore Washington Park, soon to be, I believe, just washingtonpark.org, correct, Megan?
No, it'll be Explore Washington Park.
It'll be okay. I'm mistaken. Okay, so if they go to explorewashingtonpark.org and start clicking around a little bit, then obviously they have some intention of like visiting the Hoyt Arboretum or the Portland Rose Garden or the Japanese Museum or fill in the blanks, right? And so that would be the perfect person to show one of these commercials that we're about to pop up next time they go to Instagram, next time they go to Facebook, next time they go to YouTube. This is the retargeting and remarketing world of advertising, where you can have a scalpel with your advertising dollars, right? Just show this. Only pay my precious, nonprofit advertising budget dollars when someone has already said, I'm in to some degree, right? We call that in the middle of the funnel now, right? So they're totally aware of Washington Park. Now they just need to understand how to use Washington Park and how to use public transit to get there. And this is a slightly different for a nonprofit than it would be for a for-profit, but the concept is the same. If somebody's been to your checkout, you're an e-commerce owner, for instance, and they've been to the checkout but didn't cross over and actually swipe their credit card, then that would be the perfect person to, again, follow around, a little bit for as many days as is necessary or pertinent. And you just make sure that they understand the value, maybe overcome some objections, maybe get some instructions on how to use this product effectively. So that was part of the intent, because, hey, listen, if you didn't know this already, social media is a black hole. You put some content up there, it could be amazing content, and then a week later, the feed is so cluttered with other stuff, is completely forgotten. So when you design assets for evergreen advertising, you don't want that to happen. You cannot trust the algorithm to show your precious video to your followers even, right? And you certainly can't expect the algorithm to show it perpetually. So I consider these evergreen commercials, Megan, that can be a part of your remarketing campaigns. And maybe that's a future campaign we can help to set up for you guys
Yeah.
as we go and record episode 2 of our main interview. Okay. So out of respect for everybody's time today, I'm just going to pop into a few of these commercials, and then we'll get some voiceover from you, Megan, on how these would work for you or not.
Okay. Okay.
We'll watch landscape here.
One thing that makes the park so unique is that there is this transit center right there. It's steps away from the zoo entrance, steps away from the World Forestry Center entrance, and it arrives at Washington Park Station every 7 to 9 minutes, this MAX train. The MAX is wheelchair accessible. It connects to Washington Park and it connects to the free shuttle. The free shuttle is ADA accessible. It's really a great way for people with mobility needs to explore the park.
And I don't even know if you know this, there's a free shuttle that'll take you around to all the amazing attractions here in this 410 acres of park.
I love that one. I think that's my favorite one that we did. I've been through all of them. I think I love that it's short and to the point, and it highlights accessibility and
Yeah.
and the ease, and just the convenience of taking the train. I love that we were on the train too, so you could kind of
Right.
see, we weren't just talking about it, we were showing people what it's actually like. So I loved that. That was your idea, Jam. I love that you decided to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love showing versus just telling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if this made the cut. I'm sure it's in the long form, but it was a genuine epiphany for me that public transit was not only a solution to some of those things we talked about earlier, right? Saving money, saving time, saving stress, but the regenerative element of going through that tunnel and seeing the amazing, I mean, that tunnel for Max is an attraction in and of itself.
Yeah, that
Right?
artwork at the Washington Park Station. It's so cool.
Yeah. Like if
Yeah.
I were bringing my girls, we would be there for 2 hours before we ever actually stepped foot and like rode the elevator up to the main quote unquote attractions of Washington Park.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I love that perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way before, and I think that's
So
cool.
tell me about the accessibility aspect of MAX and public transit here in Portland.
The MAX it's wheelchair accessible. It connects to Washington Park and it connects to the free shuttle. The free shuttle is ADA accessible.
There's a free shuttle that can take you all around all of the big attractions and regions of Washington Park. It's also ADA, it's free. And we're kind of like eliminating any excuses for not getting up there and frolicking in Washington Park, especially when it's so nice here in Portland. A wheelchair-friendly access to the free shuttle. Yeah. So truly, this little hidden gem that helps people circulate and flow
in a loop
all the way around Washington Park is truly accessible for everyone.
it's really taking me back. It's I think this has been in post-production for what, a month or two. So
Okay, the 60-second one, can we watch that one? I think that's the one where we talk about the baby elephant. I think that's the other
Once
one.
again, we have people kind of stacking up with these vehicles. We have sometimes, you see 2 or 3 people in the car. Sometimes it's one and a dog. So what do you see as the biggest benefits to public transit and one of and some of the biggest problems with driving your car up?
Okay, it's fast, easy, stress-free. I mean, that is stressful coming in and looking at this parking lot with your kids in the back thinking, I just want to see a baby elephant. What do I do? And it's inexpensive. It costs us $2.80. Kids under 7 ride free on the max. Ages 7 to 17 have a discounted rate. So it's really inexpensive.
And you're spending how much here for parking?
It's close to $10.
So you guys are like, take public transit.
Yes.
Take public transit, or you will pay more.
Everyone.
Yes.
I love that it was a busy day and we were able to highlight really, I mean, that's what it's like coming in on a busy sunny day. It's crazy.
When is it not though? Last time when I came up to shoot the preamble, it was total chaos up there.
Yeah.
So we are running out of time. As I watched those little commercials, Megan, I just wanted to commend you. You're doing a fabulous job for an institution that matters a lot to us as Portland native. I guess, Karli, can you say that you're a Portland native? No, but you have Portland in your bones and on your skin.
You appreciate Portland.
Definitely. It gets in there, but I would not call myself a native.
But as many people know by now, if you haven't watched the World Forestry Center episode, Washington Park is in the DNA of Peaceful Media. This is where we started, in essence. And so to be able to come back full circle, we're 18 years down the road now since founding the company, full circle to support what you guys are doing, Megan, and inviting people gently, but also persuasively to use the public transit. I cannot think of a better and more fun and enjoyable, mission-aligned episode than what we just did with you. And I really appreciate, I want everyone who's watching this to hear how much I appreciated your flexibility, your willingness to play, your spontaneity, and just making that episode incredibly fun and meaningful.
It was so much fun. Thank you for inviting me, and I was honored to join. And thanks for all the work that you've done to help elevate our mission. I mean, this is just such a great opportunity, and we all at the organization appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we're going to let you get going. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining this Double Click segment, a branch off of episode number 20 of the Marketing for What Matters podcast. Until we see you next time, remember to love more, play more, and do more good. I'm Jam at Peaceful Media. Karli.
I'm Karli. I'm Karli Petrovic at Peaceful Media.
And I'm Meghan McCloskey from Explore Washington Park.
All right, everyone. Peace.
Bye.